long enough about corn. Let's look at sorghum budget. All right. You know, we talked about a corn budget at 450, 500, 550. What, you know, if you're putting 300 tons, it's better to be thinking 650 or 700. Whatever. Anyway, that's how much it's costing. Well, let's talk about sorghum. That's 245. Guys, when you think about a sorghum budget, how much are you spending to grow an acre of soybeans? It's about 245. Because some of these things that you got here in sorghum, like seed costs, are higher for soybeans than they are for sorghum. You should be, by the way, I got 8 pounds there. You really shouldn't put but 5 or 6 pounds of sorghum seed down. Even though we need fertilizer, you've got 2 sprays of an insecticide on your soybean crop sometimes, or maybe more than that. So when you figure your cost, we're not looking at a big difference between a budget for sorghum and a budget for soybeans. I want to make that point clear. Because it all then comes down to how much yield are you going to get. If I can get 100 bushel sorghum yield, I'll always plant sorghum over soybean. Because it'll take a 60 bushel soybean yield to beat that. But if I can only make a 70 bushel sorghum yield, well then 45 or 50 bushel beans beats that. So I'll plant beans. And that's where this really comes down. We're really competing against beans, I think, this year in this sorghum crop. So, and here's what, if I could grow 120 bushel sorghum, 254 is all I need. This corn, the sorghum price today beats that. I can grow sorghum like that. 85 bushel sorghum, I need 356. I'm still getting that on the market. That break even is about 65 or 70 bushels of sorghum before I start losing money. And there you go. If you're only going to make 40 bushel sorghum, and you guys know that there's some 40 bushel sorghum out there, ain't there? Why, you need 757. Good luck on that. That's all I got to say on that one. Good luck on that. All right, so what are we going to do? If we're going to grow sorghum this year, and maybe we got to beat soybeans, how are we going to beat soybeans? Well, here's what you're going to do. You're going to pick the best hybrid with disease resistance. Good yield and disease resistance. It turns out that sorghum is a lot like your wheat crop out there that Randy described. You want a hybrid that has resistance to common diseases that affect sorghum. That's the biggest bite out of your yield is diseases, just like it is out of your wheat yield. The same thing is true about your sorghum yield. Disease resistance. You're going to think about a fungicide, and I'm hoping I got that data in there. If not, I'm going to talk about it. And then you're going to plant it at the right time. So let's talk about those 3 things. Guys, I put some literature back here. This is the OVT from the sorghum test for North Carolina in 2013. It's on the back table there. This is a screenshot of this OVT for full season hybrids. These are the top ones in this list. There's overall, we had 3 sites, Goldsboro, Rocky Mount, Kinston, all sandy loam soils, all soils that are familiar to you. And you can see we had some pretty good yields. I can beat soybeans here. You betcha I can beat soybeans there. So I beat soybeans there even when I factored in Kinston, where we had, what was the problem with Kinston? It wasn't the weather, it was the sickle pod that got me in Kinston. So that's the story right there. But averaged over all 3 sites, you see those yields there, they're pretty doggone good. There's the Monsanto hybrids. I'm just going to go through this quickly. You got a chance to read it. There's Monsanto hybrids. There's Dynagrow. If you're a Dynagrow guy, there's a hybrid right up there at the top of that list. There's sorghum partners. Helena or Mare Heron handle some of those. And Golden Acres Genetics are handled by some folks. There's a Banta. Again, not at the top of the list. There's Richardson seed. And then, whoa, there's where I lost it. There's the Pioneer, 84P80, I thought I had them highlighted. 84P80 and 83G17 were the 2 best hybrids from Pioneer this year. And you can see the 84P80 was second. Triumph, the only one that topped the list was the Triumph Seed Company hybrid, and that's an experimental. That's an X in that name, means it's experimental, it's not available. So the Pioneer turns out to be the top commercial hybrid in this list here, at 99 over that 3 locations. Again, I can beat soybeans at that rate. Now, can we do better? You betcha. Here's out of the northeast. Now this is on a Roanoke silt loam soil, not a muck. This is a Roanoke. It's got some clay to it. And with this water this year, it has plenty of moisture all season long. There's that pie there, 84 P80. That's not a mistake. That's 4 replicated plots averaging 150 bushels. That's corn. That's not beating soybeans, that's beating corn. So indeed, we can make some yield with sorghum if managed correctly. And that's what I've always said, is that we're just scratching the surface with sorghum in many cases. We can do better. There's that Dynagrow hybrid there. You can read some of these. I don't have, well, I've highlighted some of these that were on the top of the OBT in that case. Again, check this information out. How about double crop? Could we make some money growing double crop sorghum last year? No. Let's just cut to the chase. No. But there's yields that we got from 2 locations, the Rocky Mountain and Kinston. I've highlighted some of these hybrids that were also in the full season test, like Jim Dumpy has full season and double crop that do the same. Well, those are those highlighted ones that were very similar at the top of the other list. But 70 bushels, 60, 50, I just said you can't break even at that. You cannot, what was the problem with double crop last year? I planted this on July 17th. Do not plant sorghum after the middle of July and expect to make money. That's just the bottom line of it. That's how it stacks up. We've known this for some time, but it was certainly true last year. Here's what these hybrids look like. Let's just go through quite quick. There's that 84 P80. Here's what I like about it. It's short stature. Dries down nicely. Pretty good sized head. You can see here, this is harvest. We're getting ready to put the combine through here. That's what it looked like there at harvest. Here's the Pioneer 83 G17. What don't I like about that hybrid? It's too doggone tall. It's already showing some lodging here at harvest time. I don't like that. I got to get this, it's got to stand better for us. We're not going to get in that harvest that thing right at the right time. We got to have it stand for us just a little while. There's the 2 side by side. You can see the difference in tall, how big they are, and how much lodging those 2 have side by side. Now it can get worse. It can get a lot worse, actually. There's hot decaf. That's a good hybrid. Don't get me wrong. I'm not taking it out on decaf 5367. That's a good yielding hybrid. We made 100 bushels on this plot. We now had to put our header down here on the ground to pick it, but we made 100 bushels on that plot, but I don't like that, and you won't either. You got to have something that's better standability has to be part of it. Plant tall means it's going to fall. How about, and the other thing, the thing I really want to point out before I get off of this soapbox here with hybrid, is disease resistance. What does disease look like in our sorghum field? Well, here's what disease looks like. See that reddish on that leaf? See that red leaf there? See this red leaf? Anthracnose. We get anthracnose, we get rough leaf spots. We had a sorghum breeder from the Midwest come out, look at our sorghum plots last year, and he about fainted. He said, I've never seen anything like this. The diseases all over, we never see these diseases. He's exactly right. We got disease cat. We knew that before he came. We know that from wheat. Guys, we got to treat this like a wheat crop. We got to pick for disease resistance, and anthracnose is the biggest problem we have, and there's a direct relation to how much of this red leaf we get in there and what our yield's going to be. I do have some data this year to help you in this selection. I got this table, again, it's in this handout, but these are ratings. 10 is great. 10 is where I don't see any red disease in that plant at all. None of these made 10, by the way. 1 is where the whole plant, stem, leaf, everything is red. So it's eat up. So these 8s are good. 7, there's the 83P80, 83G7. Those top hybrids tended also to be best in anthracnose rating, and not by surprise. Here I've highlighted some of these top hybrids, and you can see they fit in here in some of these 6, 7, 8 anthracnose rating. There's a direct relationship between anthracnose and yield level. Now, that should trigger some thoughts in your mind. Can we control these diseases like Randy suggested with wheat with a little fungicide? And the answer to that is yes. The problem with it is you got to be at the right time to do it. It's not like wheat where you might do it at top dress or at flag leaf or some other time. You got only one shot on sorghum at this thing. And that shot is here at boot or early flower. We use headline here. This is the amount of anthracnose on the peduncle, on that little stem that holds the head. It's the peduncle. You see here the amount was greatly reduced where we put headline on at boot and flower. If we used it after it flowered, no effect compared to the check. And even the fungicide we used was very sensitive. It didn't help us a bit. So a strobilurin like headline had a great effect on that disease. Now you're saying, well, did it help yield? Indeed it did. Indeed it did. There's your check yield. Now the check wasn't a slouch. It was like that 5367. Didn't sort of look bad, but it actually yielded all right. So the check wasn't a slouch. But look at where we put some headline on. We went from 108 to 123. A 15, 18 bushel yield advantage from one fungicide spray. That is something that's worth their investment. You put another 18 bushels on that yield level that you got on sorghum last year, and you think about that and compared to what you got in the bank. I'll guarantee you it makes that sorghum look good compared to some soybeans we harvested. So indeed, fungicide is an important part, just like it is in wheat, of making a good sorghum crop here. All right, last thing I want to mention, then I'll shut up. Planting date. When this thing gets planted is important. It's critical to the success of that crop. There's what we had in 2012. We averaged over 100, almost 120 bushels when we planted. As a double crop on the 18th of June, we only averaged about 56. I made money in spades. I didn't make money. What was the difference there? Well, here, before we get that far, what about 2013? If I planted the 25th of May, we averaged about 80, 85 bushels on those hybrids. There are several different hybrids here. After we waited till that 15th of June, I averaged about 45. And that's again, by the time you get to the 15th of June, sorghum season is done. Now we're not going to recover that yield. So how does that differ between the seasons? Well, there's Kinston in 2012. I've shown this last year. We planted early. We had this dry spell early, and then that heading came out right at the worst time. We planted as a double crop. We had some rain then. Heading came out just perfect timing to take advantage. Sorghum at heading needs water, is the bottom line. Needs some moisture at heading time. You're going to have to manipulate this crop to make sure we got some moisture ahead. It could get away with dry weather early, like it did right there, and still make a good yield. But it cannot get away at heading time from having some moisture. Here's 2013. Here's where we planted in May. All that rain that came in late June and early July. This is up at Rocky Mountain. And we had a good yield. There's where we planted in the middle of July. Even though we had some rain, it's just too late to make some sorghum there. That brings me to the weather forecast before I get off of here. What's this weather going to do for 2014 for our growing season? Well, you're looking sort of at it. It's going to be rainy. We're in this pattern. We've been in this pattern. Look where that pattern started. We were sort of dry coming in here, but once this rain took off, we'd get this big batch of rain, then it let up a little bit, and then we started getting more rain. We've been in that pattern since the middle of last year. We saw it again, starting up again in this heavy rain period here about mid-December, and it's been rainy and snowy ever since. And we're going to go back into this little lull here. In about 3 weeks, you're going to see this rainfall back up, and we're going to get into a lull just like we did in September, where it's still going to rain, just like it did there, but not as frequently as it has. And then about mid-May, it's going to set back in and rain some more. And then by the end of June, early July, we're going to finally break this pattern. And then it's going to get dry. That high pressure is going to come finally back and push this jet stream right on out of here. And once that dome sets up on, you guys know what that looks like. It's a dry, hot condition. From about mid-July through September, we're probably going to wish we found some rain again. That's what this pattern is setting up for. What does that mean for you? Well, first of all, Randy's right. It means when you get an opportunity, you get in the field and you do something. When you get this opportunity, this break comes in about 2 weeks, you're going to jump in there and get some fertilizer on this wheat. You're going to get your corn planted early and get her done. You're going to get your soybeans in when you can before that May rain sets in the middle of May. You're going to get your cotton done. You're going to get on it hard. And then you're going to let it rain on it. And then you're going to get back on it whenever you can. I think we won't have as frequent a rain in June as we saw last year, so we are going to get some opportunity to get that wheat out. It's still going to be rainy, and you'll probably have to dance around a few rain events. But I think it'll be a little bit better. But in June, it's going to start into that drier pattern, and by July, be into that droughty one. So that's what it stacks up for in 2014. We'll see if Swami knows what he's talking about come next year. Now, if you doubt Swami, and my son doubts Swami, my wife doubts Swami, my dog doubts Swami. If you doubt Swami, well, let me just say one thing. Last September, because I knew this pattern was going to persist, I said to all my wheat growers, I said, get your wheat in early. You're not going to get another chance. And I can prove it. I can bring some testimonies down. I said, you're not going to get another chance. Guess what? You did not get another chance. You didn't plant wheat in December, did you? You're going to be lucky to get the fertilizer on wheat. Swami was right. So if you doubt Swami, there's a testimonial for Swami's prowess there. Any questions?